I'm going to go through the bills that Senator Elizabeth Warren submitted as a member of Congress, and we're going to look at the bills, for the people that voted for her and who she represents. We're going to see what she's actually working on, and you're going to see that this woman clearly is a nut job, which you're going to find out. A lot of what she's doing is actually hit pieces against the president. Okay, so you go to congress.gov and you can look up any congressperson and you can see all the bills. Apparently there's 342. These are the ones that she entered as the sponsor of the bill. There's a lot of strange things in here. Air Traffic Noise and Pollution Expert Consensus Act, Pell Grant Restoration Act, this is to give money to students, Medicare Audiologist Access and Services Act. Like, what? This is just weird stuff. Student Loan Debt Relief Act. Okay, Stop Wall Street Looting Act. There's going to be some weird stuff in here. We're going to get to that. Okay, so for example, College Student Hunger Act of 2019. This is a bill that claims that 30% of college students are hungry and cannot provide food for themselves. And the program is going to expand money provided for college students. Gambling Addiction Prevention Act. Refund Equality Act. I don't remember what this one was. What is the Refund Equality Act? Let's look at this. Okay, this is a stupid act. This is an example of why you should not vote for Elizabeth Warren. Okay, it says Refund Equality Act. What does that mean to you? This is to permit legally married same-sex couples to amend their tax returns to file as married filing jointly for returns outside of the statute of limitations. This is not a Refund Equality Act. This is a refund for gay people who are married. That's what it is. It doesn't account for 99% of the population. A same-sex couple is a special interest group, which means that it benefits one group of people, in this case less than 1% of the population. And what it's doing is allowing them to file outside the statute of limitations. You're not allowed to file outside of the statute of limitations. Why is it that this group gets to file outside the statute of limitations, but you don't? Why is it that 99.9% of us have to file within the statute of limitations, but they get an exception? That is why you don't want to vote for these people. They're crooked. She's doing this solely for the purpose of being able to say that she fights for gay rights, and that's it. She's not doing this to benefit her constituents. 99.9% of her constituents will not benefit from this. In addition, it says right here, Refund Equality Act. It doesn't say Refund Equality Act for same-sex marriage couples. It's misleading. They do this all the time. It sounds like it's a great thing, but it isn't. Okay, this is another stupid one. Why is this woman in Congress? This is look at how long this bill is. Here it is right here. It is the policy of the United States to not use nuclear weapons first. Senator Elizabeth Warren entered this bill into Congress this year. Seriously? Why is this woman in Congress? Okay, this is a hit piece on President Trump. It's the Transition Team Ethics Improvement Act. What this is, you remember when Trump became elected and they were saying, why is he giving security clearance to his daughter or to Jared Kushner? This is to have oversight of that. They want to know everyone who's getting security clearance. So she wants to make changes so that they have more control. And obviously, it's a hit piece against the president. That's what Elizabeth Warren is doing as a congresswoman. Now, this is actually pretty cool. This is money that goes to like a student loan research could be put in an IRA. Actually, this is not cool. Money that's given for a grant is supposed to be used for what the grant is. It's not supposed to be part of your savings. I mean, if they did this, everyone who gets a grant would just put it in their IRA and keep it as cash. They're not supposed to be doing this. This is not ethical. Okay, this is early prevention for the Indian tribes. So Elizabeth Warren believes that it's necessary to have a law that the federal government has to provide services for early suicide prevention for Indian tribes. Why don't we do this for everyone? Indians are a special interest group. They're 1 or 2%, I think they're 1.7% of the US population. She's passing a bill not for the constituents of where she lives, but for this 1.7%. And why aren't we doing this for everybody? Why doesn't everybody get to participate in the suicide early interventional and prevention strategies? What it probably is she probably has a friend who's a lobbyist, who's a donor, who's saying, we do this type of program, we need a new market, give us free money, and we'll offer this service for Indians, and then they pass a bill, and this is corruption. Okay, this is a hit against the president. What it is it's prohibiting the president from using money to build the border wall. It says right here, new physical barriers along the southwestern U.S. border. Right here, that you cannot take funds and use it for disaster relief to the planning or construction of new physical barriers on the southwestern U.S. border. She's passing a bill targeted towards the president to take a power away from him. That's something that happens often. The Supreme Court, the legislative branch, and the White House use their powers to fight with each other. This is an example of what she's doing. Why isn't the media talking about this? This is a stupid bill. It says that the prisoner of war and MIA flag is required to be displayed at specified locations all days that the U.S. flag is displayed. I mean, this is stupid. Current law says it's displayed on Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, and Veterans Day, etc. Now it has to be displayed along the U.S. flag at all times at specified locations. This is dumb. You could take any flag and say that you could say the LGBTA flag has to be specified at all locations where the US flag is displayed. This sort of thing should not exist. And do you seriously think that doesn't she have more important things to do than pass an act as to when a flag should be displayed? I mean, this is just nonsense. This is to allow students to refinance student loans. I believe that student loans should be refinanceable if you can get a better rate. I'm sure that there's some corruption in here. They never do it in a really beneficial way. Okay, so here's another stupid one. Local housing. Okay, it's there's going to be more about Trump. Let's skip to the Trump one. Okay, here it is. This is a hit piece against President Trump. Presidential Conflicts of Interest Act of 2019. Basically what this is a law demanding the tax returns of the president. What it says is that if you become president or if you're a sitting president, you have to provide your tax returns and you have to disclose who you're doing business with. The Democrats and the media believe that if they get Trump's tax returns, it will show that he's colluding with Russia. It's just not true. Your tax returns do not contain what country you do business with. They do not contain what person you do business with. They do not contain people's names or what businesses you do business with. It's not in your tax returns. It only shows a summary of how much money you made, doesn't show how you made it, etc. This is a hit piece against the president. She probably complains that the president is trying to dig dirt on Joe Biden, but that's exactly what this bill is doing. She's trying to dig dirt against the president. She wants financial interest of the president, 3 recent taxable years, plus anything where an audit is pending. The president, which the president says he has a lot that are in the middle of an audit, and it says that for a sitting president, right here, special rule, no, he has 30 days to provide that information. This is never going to pass. The Republicans are not going to pass it. It is a hit piece. Elizabeth Warren is using her political power to engage in hit pieces against the president, someone who she's running against. Okay, this one we already spoke about. This is making housing more affordable. If you read it, some of it is just kind of silly. It says remove unnecessary barriers to building affordable units in their communities. This is vague. It means absolutely nothing. This is just absolutely vague, and therefore it's completely meaningless. She wants to promote physical, sensory, and environmental accessibility. What the hell does that mean? And consistent with recognized green building rating system, this is an Affordable Housing Act. This makes it less affordable. You understand what I mean? Eliminating off-street parking requirements to reduce the cost of housing production. So a lot of it has to do with density. She talks about density. The problem with what she is doing, like, okay, it says using local tax incentives. If they're there already, then, I mean, you're passing a law telling people that they have to use local tax incentives. That's idiotic. People are already using local tax incentives. You don't have to pass a law to do that. Implementing measures that protect tenants from harassment. This has nothing to do with affordable housing, and those laws are probably already implemented. You know, this is stupid. Wage and hour laws. So there's other information here. It's very generic and vague. It says that there's a shortage of affordable housing. And the problem with what she's doing is she's saying that if you build a development, you have to keep a portion of it low cost affordable. And the problem with what she's doing is that if this free market already does that, if someone builds something and nobody rents it, then they have to lower the price. Otherwise, it becomes unoccupied. And second of all, why is it that people can afford it aren't allowed to live there? And the other thing she's doing is when you make something cheaper, people who have more money are still going to rent it. It's not like it's exclusive to people who don't have money. So there's a lot of problems with this. It's just a dumb law, and I obviously don't support it. I think she should have done a better job. Universal Child Care and Early Learning Act, I'm sure we can't afford it, but let's take a look at it. Provides funds for affordable child care, 6 weeks of age, regardless of family income. So if you're wealthy, you still get the money. Families must pay a subsidized fee for these services. Housing Survivors of Major Disasters Act. Let's see what this says. We go to text. I mean, this is stupid. The reason why is because we already have disaster assistance for families affected by major disasters. Oh, this is interesting. Huh. Okay, so it's having all sorts of regulations, pay stubs and stuff like that. Behavioral Health Coverage Transparency Act. I'm going to go through these a little bit faster and just do the ones that have the summaries. Okay, that one doesn't have a summary. Department of Defense Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act. This is probably something else about President Trump. Blast Pressure Exposure Study Improvement Act. Seriously, you need a senator to do an Exposure Study Improvement Act? Department of Defense Climate Resiliency and Readiness Act. A Comprehensive Addiction Resources Emergency Act. What emergency is there? So if you read these, you can read it in as much detail to promote ethics and prevent corruption. You can see what these people are really working on, and you can see that some of them are just nonsense. There's one I'm going to show you. Let's see if we can find it. Honoring the nation's first responders day. I hope you can see this. She is entering a bill to honor someone. I mean, don't you have more important things to do than to honor people? We seriously need more important things to be done. This is why Congress doesn't get anything done. Something like 97% of congressional bills don't get passed. PCOS Awareness Month. Do you know what PCOS is? Well, she's passing a bill to make a month for awareness. The designation of April National Donate Life Month. This is Elizabeth Warren. She's wasting your time and your money. Military Retiree Appreciation Day. We have $24 trillion in debt. And look at what she's doing. Affordable Drug Manufacturing Act. Cadet Nurse Corps Service Recognition Act. The POW MIA Flag Act, when you can fly the flag. Stop Fentanyl Deaths Act. Climate Risk Disclosure, Suicide. Okay, so some of these are being repeated. Housing Victims of Major Disasters Act. The reason why this is inappropriate is because usually you wait until there's a disaster, and if something is necessary, Congress meets and provides whatever is necessary. Blast Exposure and Brain Injury Prevention Act. Do you really need a member of Congress to do this? Gambling Addiction Prevention Act. National Guard Promotion Accountability Act. Sounds like corruption to me. Why should the promotion be backdated? Why does this person have the right to backdate a promotion? That means that if you get promoted, you can get money or benefits for the time before you get promoted. Does that sound like it's just to you? Okay, so that doesn't sound like a just law. Department of Defense incorporate medical screening to gambling disorder. Okay, so it says Gambling Addiction Prevention Act. What does it have to do with the Department of Defense? Medical screening questions to gambling disorder in the annual periodic health assessment for members of the armed forces. So it's misleading. It's Gambling Addiction Prevention Act, but it doesn't mention that it's specific for armed forces. Okay, so she's going to prevent gambling by asking questions when you apply to be a member of the armed forces. Wow, that's amazing. Why is it that the Department of Defense has to develop its own policies and programs to prevent, educate, and treat gambling disorder? Does that sound to you like something that a congresswoman should be working on? But that's what it says. Why can't this apply to every aspect of the government? Why is it specific to the Department of Defense? I mean, why is it only for members of the armed forces? Why don't they ask gambling disorder questions to everybody in government or for every business? This is a nonsense bill. It's called Special Interest Group. The Department of Defense is a special interest group. These people don't know what they're doing. They're wasting resources, and nobody talks about it. Unused Medications Awareness Act. This is an awareness act, which means that they have to tell people. Why don't you just tell people? You have to pass an act of Congress to tell people that some medications are unused? I mean, seriously? To add information about dispensing options. But this has nothing to do with unused medications. You see what I mean? This has to do with Opioids, if drugs are not taken as prescribed, what does it have to do with dispensing options? When you don't take something as described, it's already been dispensed to you. And what does it have to do with unused medications? It's a nonsense bill. Safe Drug Disposal Act. You expect me to believe that people do not dispose of drugs safely? To allow a hospice employee to handle the lawfully disposed controlled substance of a deceased hospice patient to assist with disposal of controlled substances. I mean, that's really, why does the federal government have to be involved with this? I'm sure that there's something stupid in here. In a home setting, disposal of controlled substances in a home setting. You know, it sounds like something related to illegal drug use. This is what it sounds like to me. Consumer Health Insurance Protection Act. Audiology patient choice, because you don't have choice if you see an audiologist. So if you've got hearing problems, Elizabeth Warren is on your side. Alters several health insurance programs and requirements. I'm sorry if you can't see everything. Alters health insurance relating to premium, review process, tax credit, drug cost sharing, and the scope of coverage. And then when you read it, it will say something different. Okay, what is this one? Expands the definition of physician for the purpose of the Medicare program. This is corruption. She's trying to get Medicare to pay for more stuff. So basically, an audiologist is now a physician. I don't think an audiologist is a physician, because audiologist, I don't think, treats hearing. I don't. Maybe they do. I don't know. Okay, anything else there? Audiology covered regardless of whether an enrollee is under care of a physician. Okay, so this means you can go to an audiologist without getting a referral. Traditionally, you have to get a referral. Too Big to Jail Act. Investigating crimes with financial institutions conducting material loss when such institutions fail. Require financial industry regulatory authority relief fund, unpaid arbitration awards issued against brokerage firms. What does this tell you? Unpaid arbitration awards sounds like corruption. This is saying if someone doesn't pay you the money that you're due from a lawsuit, the government's going to pay it. That's what it says. This says that if a investor doesn't get his money, the government is going to bail him out. Retirement Savings Lost and Found Act. I mean, it sounds like something fair. Requires Department of Treasury to create lost and found to find retirement accounts. That makes sense. So she's got one that makes sense. Sunlight in Workplace Harassment Act, because if you have sunlight in your workplace, you're being harassed. The SEC, what does this have to do with the SEC? Sunlight in workplace harassment, what does this have to do with sexual abuse and other types of discrimination? So basically it says that securities must annually disclose complaints of sexual abuse to shareholders. Why is it only for public companies? It says Workplace Harassment Act. There's only is it only a couple thousand or a couple hundred public companies? The vast majority of companies are not public. And what about government agencies? What about nonprofits? Why is she excluding all of them? You know, a liberal, a Democrat, they don't care about regulating government. They care about regulating business. They go after business. And why does it say sunlight? I mean, it's misleading. It should just say sexual harassment. A bill to require a study on air traffic noise and pollution. You can't tell me that this hasn't already been done. I mean, this is stupid. They want them to enter into an arrangement to examine and report on air traffic noise and pollution. You can't tell me that that hasn't been done before by somebody else. I mean, come on, this is silly. They're doing that probably to give money to somebody, to one of their cronies. Okay, here's one. I don't know if you can see it. It says it's money for women veterans. This is a special interest group. That means that it doesn't apply to everyone. It only applies to a portion of the population. I'm guessing it might be less than 5% of the population. It's asking to increase the number of peer-to-peer counselors for women. What about male veterans? Why don't they get more peer-to-peer counselors? I mean, this is corruption. She's doing this to say she fights for women's rights. So if a man has mental health issues, nobody cares. A bill to designate the facility. She's supposed to represent everybody, not just females. A bill to, and it's not supposed to be just for veterans. Why isn't she directing all departments of government to increase the number of peer-to-peer counselors? And why aren't these peer-to-peer counselors available to everybody who worked for the government? Why singling out this group? You could, kill 100 birds with one stone. Are they going to pass a bill for women who were IRS agents and women who were previously politicians, and the list goes on? Why don't they just knock out one bill, increase number of peer-to-peer counselors for everybody, including men? And what about trans people? A bill to designate a facility at this address as the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Post Office. Elizabeth Warren was voted to Congress to rename a post office. Congratulations. Make her president. Transition Team Ethics Improvement Act. This is a hit piece on Trump, as we already explained. Behavioral health coverage. I think we already covered that. Data Breach Prevention and Compensation Act. This is probably something to do. We'll see. Office of Cyber Security within the FTC. I mean, how can they not already be doing this? You can't seriously tell me that they don't have a group that's managing data security within the FTC. This is just nonsense. And you can't tell me that they're not already looking for compliance with regulations. I mean, this is stupid. And you can't tell me that breaches are not being investigated. This is just another nonsense bill. Establishes civil penalties and violations and to force compliance. That's what it's about. It's about forcing compliance. This is what a liberal loves to do. National Biomedical Research Act. Makes deposits into biomedical innovation fund. Wow. A special interest group is receiving money who probably donated to her campaign. That's what happens. That's what congressmen do. A lot of what they do is spend money. Do we need an act to do medical innovation? It's done by private business. Certain drug manufacturers have to make payments to fund research. I mean, come on. This is stupid. They're already doing that. They already take a portion of their income to fund research. This is what taxes do. It's a tax. It's another tax is what it is. Okay, there was like one or two of these bills that I agree with. Most of these are just jokes. Issue voluntary guidelines. Seriously? To ensure that students with disabilities are afforded the same educational benefits provided to non-disabled students. This is a joke. She's not doing this because she's trying to help someone. She's doing this so she can claim, see, I passed a bill for disabled people. Everyone's going to vote for this bill because it doesn't do anything. Provides for an independent commission to issue voluntary accessibility guidelines. It doesn't do anything. Why isn't it mandatory? Because if it's mandatory, they might not pass the bill. She's going to say, oh, I did something for disabled people. She didn't do anything. No one's going to have more accessibility because of this. End Banking for Human Traffickers Act. I really doubt that human traffickers have access to free banking. Revises the duties of the Department of Treasury to include illicit financing for human trafficking. Terrorism has nothing to do with human trafficking. This is what socialists do. They create bureaucracy. They're adding human trafficking to terrorism. They're two unrelated things. Trafficking Victims Protection Act to eliminate money laundering, to report on efforts. Wow, that's what they're doing. This seriously, they're amending the act to report on efforts. Why do you have to do this? Why can't you just ask them to report on their efforts? Why can't you just say anyone who is an agency who's not reporting on your efforts must report on your efforts? Why don't they just say that? She's making it sound like, oh, look at what I did for human traffickers. Elizabeth Warren is going to say, I passed a bill to help end human trafficking. You know what she did? She asked them to report on their efforts. That's what Elizabeth Warren does. This is just corruption. Obviously, it's not corruption, but it shows you why these people, Elizabeth Warren, the reputation is complete garbage. They're doing absolutely nothing. They're phonies is what they are. Equal Employment for All Act. Let's see what this one does. It's going to be another joke. It amends your credit report. Seriously, read this again. Equal Employment for All. What it does is it amends your credit report. It has nothing to do with equal employment for anybody. It's misleading. The woman is a phony. To prohibit an employer from using your credit report for employment purposes. Freedom from Equifax Exploitation Act. What the heck is this? To revise fraud alert provisions. The time period is extended from 90 days to 1 year. Okay, so that's a credit freeze. You know, this is a good thing. I believe it should be lifetime, personally. Free credit freeze upon the request. You know what? This is really not honest. What this is doing is it allows you to freeze your credit report so that nobody can see it. And I don't know if this is right because, you know, your credit report is there for a reason. It should be truthful. They put things on your credit report without you getting to approve it. And I think that the way to fight fraud is to let you know immediately when something is being put on your credit report. We have email. Securing the electric grid to protect military readiness. I mean, seriously, can't the military do this on their own? Like, the military doesn't know about their own issue? Okay, it says that they have to submit to Congress a report. You see what I mean? It sounds like they're going to secure the electric grid, but really they're just asking for a report. Why doesn't it say bill for the DoD to submit a report on the electric grid? Upholding America's Nuclear Commitments Act. Bill directs to report on the Russian Federation's new ground-launched cruise missiles. Seriously, you need to direct the Department of Defense to report this to you? And look at that, funds. You see what she's doing? She's spending money. Oh, no, wait. It says that, oh, she's holding the funds is what she's doing for some sort of a weapon until Congress approves it. Well, Congress already approved the funds. So now she's placing a hold on funds that another congressman already authorized. So this is a political hit piece. She's going after a bill that someone else passed. Okay, we already discussed this one. Oh, a Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame commemorative coin. Wow, Elizabeth Warren, you're so amazing. Service Member Debt Collection Reform Act. Probably going to mean that they don't have to pay their debts. The DOD to review and update. I mean, serious. She's directing the Department of Defense to review and update their directive to make sure it complies with federal consumer protection laws. I mean, it sounds like a good thing. Counterfeiting foreign interference with our Armed Forces Act. Countering, seriously, she needs to pass a bill telling our military to not allow foreign interference in our military. This is a joke. To report annually to Congress. And it's only about Russia. Why isn't Russia mentioned in the title of the bill, even though it's only about Russia? Okay, so they're asking for a report whenever someone gets a job or compensation from a foreign government to a retired member of the armed forces. Now, obviously, this is a hit against Trump. This was a few months after Trump became elected. It's going to have a retroactive period. She's looking to gather information on Trump. She's looking for dirt on Trump because it was believed that Trump was working with Russia, which, of course, there is no evidence. They're looking for dirt. Now, I would say, why does it say foreign interference, but it only singles out Russia? And why is it only the armed forces? The act should say reporting on employment or compensation to retired government employees. But that's not what it says. It says something completely different. It says countering foreign interference. So why is it that they're not reporting every government employee who works for a foreign government or any government employee that's retired? Because it's a hit piece. They're going after the military because Democrats don't receive donations from the military. She's going after Republicans is what she's doing. It's basically what it is. She wouldn't do it against housing. She's never going to say, report on a government employee who's now working for a foreign housing company. She's never going to say that. Preventing Civilian Casualties in Military Operations Act. Let's see what this is. Bill directs to report annually on civilian casualties. You can't tell me that they're not doing this. And it says preventing. The bill is not preventing anything. All it's doing is reporting. Why doesn't it say reporting Civilian Casualties in Military Operations Act? That is why she is a phony. She's going to say, Elizabeth Warren, she's going to be asked the questions, what's your opinion on civilian casualties? I passed S.1468 bill preventing civilian casualties in Military Operations Act. No, you didn't. All you did was ask about reporting. These people are phonies and they're lying to the American people, and Elizabeth Warren is one of them. She's a crook is what she is. Don't vote for this woman.